All right, so welcome to Intuition to Income 2022. And I must say, this is probably my favorite guest. Sorry to pick favorites, but this woman is my soulmate. I absolutely love her. She is the CEO and founder of Live Your Best Life in Australia. She is a client in the program, but I feel she is my teacher in so many ways. And she is going to be delivering some amazing live information to us today because she lives it. And she just was on the Girlfriend Hour, which I think was millions of people. I'm not sure how many, she'll let you know. But this woman has really done it from the inside out. And she is just such a example of pure love. And one of the things I wanted her to go through today was really shifting the energy from fear to love, and even sharing with her some personal experience I had about, wow, how fear comes in. It can almost really distort the energetic field. So when we're following our intuition, just like she knows and anybody else in the Intuitive Success Club, the foundation is love. Until we are centered in love, which is first chakra foundation, we cannot get a clear read from our intuition. And so she's going to guide you, because I know I can say that because I know she will, to connect to this place of love within you where you are actually that frequency and the receptor of love, because then
Mm.
you're able to attract more love into your life. And that is the frequency, obviously, that creates business success, personal success, health, all of it, right? And really, that is the intuitive path, right? It starts with the foundation of love and trusting your intuition. So, Michelle, welcome. Oh my goodness. Love you so much. Thank you for being here.
I love you too. And it actually is quite profound every time we jump on and connect. I always think back, especially when you say that love is the foundation, because if you even think back to when we met, when we very first met, love was the foundation, because across this big wide world in which we live, the frequency of love was like out across the ether, and it found me here in Australia. And that was because you were looking for people with the same, I guess, values and mind and heart to join the Universal Language of Love series that you and Alyssa were rolling out at the time, Alyssa Williamson. And I know that when you found me, that was exactly how it felt. Right? Like when love comes
What?
like that, and that's intuition guiding. I mean, how does one soul meet another soul in that way? Never met physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely so much around the vibrational frequency of how we're resonating, that when we are at that place,
Yeah.
that another soul on that frequency, it's almost like those two souls come together and create that soul contract that we've gone on to live and breathe every single day. I would say that love grew very deep within. It took some time to fertilize and cultivate, but our intuition knew that we were brought together for amazing things and to create together in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very blessed to have met you. And I'm very, very blessed to be enjoying and going through your program, because it is enjoyment. It's also those aha moments
Mhm.
of when someone is guiding you, that you actually then can go deeper into your intuition. Because if you've got someone already in that space, and then there's a guidance and your intuition already knows, it's almost like you've heard the lesson before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like I know this, but I didn't know it. Like I didn't know it in the logic brain yet, but I knew it in the deepest part of my soul,
Right.
or whatever you want to call it, right? We can get caught up on all this language and that doesn't resonate. This word doesn't resonate. It's like whatever your word is. You know what I'm talking about when you just know.
And that's the whole thing with intuition, anyways. It's like you already do know. So we actually hope to help you just open up to what's already there, because the answer is there, right? And so it's like the more willing you are to be connected to your intuition, the easier it is. So
That's
that's what I
right.
love.
And because it's conditioning to be in our logic mind. When you think about success strategies, unless you're tapping into the side of intuition, you're actually ignoring other planes of reality that exist within you. Being that if you kind of broke them down into a logical framework, there is obviously the mental plane, which we all talk about, our mindset strategies. We have our soul plane, which is where a lot of people tend to dip their feet or check out on it a little bit, or might ignore the signs or the whispers. So our role is really to connect people back to that. And it's because it's been covered over in some ways because of staying safe, or ego likes to step in to probably play safety games, and we lose our sense of self when we're playing life too safe. I think that when we are, and I don't mean safe in the let's go risk our life unsafety, I mean just safe in the sense of getting out of our own comfort. I mean, we are a human being species. The whole idea of being a human being is to evolve. So if we're not evolving, we are devolving. And if we link that to the hero's journey that I speak about so much in the Bringing Life to Leadership series that we talk about at Live Your Best Life, it's like that's the ordinary gray beige world. And I don't think most of us want that. Most of us are trying to break the cycle of getting out of that. Yeah. But in the beige, gray, ordinary world, the hero hasn't actually recognized yet that they are a hero. Right? You think about any blockbuster movie, yeah, they've got the superhero, or the person who goes on in the movie to be the hero is just kind of sitting there like in Glumville, like gray world, beige world, everything's a little mundane, everything's a little boring, kind of Groundhog Day, and they're rejecting the fact that they are amazing. Right, that there is another thing speaking to them and calling to them that they are just ignoring. They know it's there because it's like a tap, tap, tap. And then eventually usually there's a little droplet of wisdom that comes along, whether it be from a mentor, like doing a program like Intuitive Success Club, whether it be a video or something. Someone might watch this video and it might be the one thing they needed to hear today that can make that shift or change, where it's like, but that mentor said, or that wise person said, and I read this thing, and that was the thing that I just went, I cannot stay in this beige ordinary world anymore. Yeah. And usually that world is where we're living in fear. Right? This is where the dance of that duality of fear and love unite, because you cannot be fully expressed in love if you haven't actually been fully acceptance of your fear, which is
wow, it's so beautiful, Michele. So like last night, like I was sharing with you, like we had something that happened in our romantic partnership, and my third eye would literally go gray for a minute, right? And it's usually very bright. And so it's actually true, the color of that, right? And we're good, like we're talking, but it's just like how that frequency starts shifting, because you're literally going to see a grayer field where there's fear. And then when you actually align with love, it becomes brighter, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to do that. Like he's texting me now, you can feel the attunement, right? So as you start coming into greater love, you're attuning your frequency, right? And so this happens in business and life. Like health is huge. I mean, I've had a lot of people come to me around that, because it's like for me, I took for granted my health a lot because it was just so easy. But I just realized that it's one of the key things, especially where we're at now. We, like my partner and I, have been able to heal actually from things with energy and nutrition, like powerfully.
Absolutely. I resonate fully to that. Like if I think back to even why I'm here talking to you today about intuition to income, it all started there. I had gone through some serious stuff as a 3-year-old to 15-year-old, and it involved health as well as abuse, as well as so many things, right? And it was almost like that, as I talk about in our Live Your Best Life program, it's like an excavation process that we go through, almost like an archaeological dig, where we know that some things in our lives are being covered over with maybe stacks on mud or just a little bit of dust. And it's almost like that sense of forgetting who we are. So there's this, and that's like the hero in the ordinary world. We've forgotten who we are. So the ultimate human experience in my eyes is to awaken to these seeds of remembering, to absolutely remember who we are. And I think that's the ultimate
Yeah. Yeah.
gift. But to go back to your point, it's like, so we're covering up these things because maybe we have an experience like a health crisis or an abuse time, like a time in our life where we feel like somebody did wrong by us, right? So at the time we make these decisions to stay safe. So it's no surprise, like it's no surprise when you think about it, because we're wise, but we've also got survival instinct, right? Like, okay, that doesn't feel good, so I'm going to shut that down and I'm going to protect myself. So we just bring these layers on ourselves, not
Right.
in a conscious way. It all happens
Right.
unconsciously, but for right reason,
Yeah.
right? At the time. But over time, that becomes our filter. So our filter in, I know that you've studied NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and myself, but we have like external observances that are occurring. We're bringing them through our filtering system, our own filtering system. And this is where humans become unique, because up until this point, we are literally made up of exactly the same energy, matter, water, like space. We're made up the same. What changes and shifts is how we decide to view the world. And that steeps through our experiences, our beliefs, our values, our memories, things that we call our meta programs. And that's where it all starts to distort and delete and become generalized to ourselves. And that's why your experience of one thing and my experience of one thing will be completely different. Yeah, sure, we can draw similarities. We can go, oh, that feels so beautiful and lovely. But you might look at, we might be going through a rose garden or something, and you'll go, did you see this? And I'll be like, nope, because I was looking completely at a different area of that garden.
Right.
Yeah, and that's life. So yes, it becomes discolored because of the fact that we haven't recognized our own greatness, or at the time the fear overrides the love, right? It becomes so much more powerful. It's actually a proven thing, right? There's science around this. There's science that tells us that if you've had one negative emotional experience in this physical, amazing body that we've been given, it takes 5 positive responses to like gazump the negative one.
Wow. I've
You
heard
got to
that.
stack on 5 positive ones. That's how strong negative emotions and fear are.
Yeah.
So there's no surprises when we think of it, even just from a chemical hormone response in the body, that if we haven't got our environments or our self-awareness or our understanding of how we're operating and who we're being sort of sorted, that one bad experience in the morning can lead to a completely terrible day.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not if you're not aware that I've got to really now start to bring in at least 5 things that are going to shift and change that chemical response. Otherwise, that chemical response is going to run rampant through the body all day long, full of the cortisol, full of the stress hormones.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's so much to it, because I can talk about health crises here, which links so much to fear and love and to our intuition to make us abundant and prosperous.
Hmm. Well, maybe one thing first, if you want to go into that, I wanted to share one key thing that actually came through last night as I turned to him. I said, love is the transformer. So if you can imagine just a beam of golden light, just even through the top of your head, down through your heart to your gut, you'll actually feel just even so ever so slightly that love coming into the fear, and it'll start to transform it. So then, like you said, 5 positive experiences. Okay, so I'm starting to feel the love. I'm bringing it into the fear, right? And then, I could reach over to kiss him, right? So there's love, right? So one more experience. What's another one, right? So as you start just bringing just a little bit of that love in, you're going to know another thing you can do. And I love that you said that. All right, let's do 5. So, and it's to focus on what's right too. That's the other thing. Like I was talking to Michele the other day, and she's like, focus on like all of the good, because when we actually see like a helicopter, almost like we're learning in NLP, it's an objective place, and we can see and actually access the positive resources to be like, oh, we are okay. So whatever your situation might be, for me last night it was like some trauma trigger, and it was like, wow, I'm actually more than okay right now. But that fear just can come in, and so if you bring the love in, it's going to transform it. right?
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
amazing how things come together, right? Like our interview today, friends, like it just, things will start being attracted to you to support that path, right? That intuitive path that love is
Mm.
calling to, right? Even before I got this card, actually, one of my friends came over and he's like, draw some cards. And it was like, decision. All right, love or fear. And I
Okay.
just said decide, right? But it's like, what path do you want? The intuitive path of love or fear or whatever that brings too, so you decide.
Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful because when I was thinking about we're going to connect today, one of the things that I really believe around intuition and linking that to our output of receiving abundance and prosperity and giving it as well is that whole entire notion that it has to be steeped in decision. And that's the one thing. So if you think about the hero that goes on the hero's journey, they make the decision to go on the call to adventure, right? Otherwise, they're living in this ordinary world. Sometimes they might put one foot over the threshold to adventure, but they might keep the other one in the safety zone. But it's only when we are prepared to lift this other foot up and cross over the threshold with both feet, that's a decision. And one of the things that I definitely believe through my own experiences with intuition to income is you must be intentional. You might not know all the steps, but you must be clear and intentional. And so when you say, it was funny when you're going like the five, even when you were sort of saying my own words back around the five things stacked on and how you move towards it rather than away from it. That's also it, right? We can either be moving towards what we want or away from what we want. And we know that when we're moving away from it, that we're probably moving away from it from a place of fear, right? Like, but we spend so much time trying to get away from the thing that we don't spend enough time trying to move towards what we actually want. So then we create this self-fulfilling prophecy of what we focus on is what we get. Right. So there's so many layers because as you were speaking, I was actually imagining and filtering through the chakra system because you referenced it. Plus, it's a big part of your body of work with the Intuitive Success Club. And I went, kind of interesting that there's 7 chakras, but, there's like 5 to 6, 5 to 7 things. You have one experience, then you're going to have 5 to cross that over. I'm going, well, maybe the 7th is actually moving our way all the way back up to our crown chakra, which is where we can receive and give and receive freely without any of that other coloring.
Yeah, it's crystal clear. Your third eye is clear, and then your 7th is like straight up to universe.
Yeah,
right?
It's straight up. So but maybe it's because we've got to go through all those layers. We've got to connect to the base. We have to make sure that, in the gut that it feels like right again. Then we've got to come up into the heart. Then we've got to find our voice. Then we've got to make a decision through the lens of that third eye where we can see, and then straight up, baby, like, let's go. Right.
Back to the foundation of love that we were talking about, which is first chakra, and you're exactly right, right? Each of those chakras need to be balanced before we actually get up into the 7th. But what creates safety for people? I'm wondering if you have any advice or guidance on that, right? If somebody's feeling fear, how they can actually come into that place where they feel safety. So I talked about bringing love in, which I think is the first step. But to feel safe, you can then open. You can actually open to receiving your own spiritual gifts. I believe we all have them, right? And so that's one of the things I love about the club is helping people monetize it, because it's like, oh my goodness, like we're all such lights of the world. Like we need to be supported in that monetarily, right? So anyways, I kind of went on a bit of a tangent, but back to the safety.
To feel safe,
Yeah.
it goes back to the inner work.
Yeah.
Right. So until we are able to go on our own self-discovery mission to understand who we are being, usually what I find when I'm working with clients is that if they feel this lack of safety, they're spending so much time focused on the external world around what potentially took place that there's a neglect going on within. I find that their self-love strategies are probably a little low. They probably spend more time discussing their life or situation with others rather than listening intently to their intuition and just trusting. So they seek like validation and connection from others and almost to be able to make sense of it, to be able to make sense of whatever it is that they don't feel safe about. And if you think about it, if you think about the logical things that happen in our society, if someone doesn't feel safe, they go to shelter, or usually it involves connection to another human being.
Right.
There can be a reliance that then takes place on always relying on others to be able to move through whatever it is that keeps you feeling unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
The true gift of safety comes when you start to trust yourself, trust your inner wisdom, to feel certain around who you are and the decisions you make, to trust yourself, to believe in yourself. That's where the real safety switch starts to turn, where it's not about cutting people off from you. It's definitely not that, because as a human species, it's all about connection, but it's about not having this over reliance on others for all your decision making, to feel certain, to trust, to believe. It's about that transformation, or that inner switch that you need to turn on within. And what I've recognized through working with people in that space now, to move from connection back to their own sense of power, not only do they need to have that certainty, trust, and belief within, they also need to feel it with those around them that they are in loving relationships with, or perhaps a place of shelter that they've gone to seek out. Like I'm thinking of a refuge, right? Like all of a sudden I was just thinking of, I don't know, domestic violence. I feel this is a big thing. Like a woman will pick up her children per se and run off to a shelter, but she's still feeling unsafe there. What if I get found? What if that follows me? So they've got to feel then that sanctuary of safety to be able to probably tap into their own self again. Right. So there's 3 things that I have learned that must take place to create a self purpose for you, for your own life. And you probably don't even need to create it. It's about connecting with it, because one of the things that I know coming into Intuition to Income, one of your purpose pieces, is that I wrote it down because it was really profound for me, that because it wasn't so much profound as it connected deeply with me. It was like, follow your intuition to your own purpose, right? And your own purpose on this planet. Like I believe, like you believe, that we all came here to experience life, but to connect to our gift, to then create whatever that gift is and share that gift to the world, so that we're fully expressed in this lifetime, whatever that looks like. All right. Now that can be anything. It doesn't need to be grandiose in any stretch of the imagination. Some of us choose to live it in a grand way. Some of us choose to live it in a really subtle way, but to be deeply steeped in that self-purpose, because through that, you are being the change that you want to see in the world. You are then inspired by your own intuition. You're then connecting that to growing your income. We all, have this need to create an income here in this lifetime. And I think that's all part of this sequencing, because so many of us don't actually focus on finances and wealth, abundance and prosperity. There's a trust with our intuition. It will arrive, but there are certain things that our intuition, to connect deeply to the universal laws, requires. And that is that the universe does love order, which is why when you look at nature, it's a system. We need to have a system for this. And so many people just go, but if I just trust my intuition, it'll all come flowing freely to me. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Not always.
Well, you got to take action. Yeah.
You got to take action. You got to be intentional. And that's where the decision making comes in. Once we connect deeply to that purpose, that's when we're actually connected to that vibrational frequency of love. That's where all our inspiration then starts to come from. And that's where I believe our lucrative purpose starts to percolate up to the surface. It rises up to the surface. And that's why when we get intentional, we make decisions, we live on purpose, that this abundance and prosperity just tends to flow freely. That was definitely my experience. So I can sit here on this program with you and very much talk from experience. I I arrived at a place in my life where for most people, I think it would have been game over. I had $329,736.79 worth of AUD, Australian dollars worth of debt at a time when I had gone through a health crisis and wondering why on earth was I even still alive, like to then have to conquer that mountain. And the biggest conquering was exactly these 3 steps: self-purpose, redefining what that was in my world, finding a team purpose. Now, team can be whoever your teammates are. Doesn't necessarily mean a work environment. It could mean a community. It could mean a family. It could mean a tribe of wherever you feel like that's my people. Right? You got to have a purpose there. And even if it's just to sit around a campfire, you've got to contribute. You got to know that you're adding value, right? You got to be able to find a sense of your own growth there, that I'm adding value, I'm contributing, because it's all part of the 6 core needs. Anyone wants to look that up? 6 core needs, Tony Robbins. There's 2 that are different, that are common for all of us, is that we want to be valued for what we contribute and for the growth that we have in life. Again, connecting to evolution. Right.
Love. Don't you think we all have the need to feel loved? I think that's a core need.
Yeah. Well, I believe that contribution and growth is steeped in love. I don't feel like we feel like contributing if we're not operating from a vibrational frequency of love. So I think that love is the undertone to all of these things. It has to be, right? Because with that is, let's be honest, as a human being, what is it that we all want the most? The thing we seek the most is love. In every, so the end game always must be love. It's like the compass for everything. It's like the compass for everything. And even our values that live your best life say that. At the end of our values, we say, because all roads lead to love.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, like all roads. It doesn't matter if you're looking at it through a business lens or you're looking at it through a life lens, all roads lead to love. Yeah. So self-purpose, team purpose, and the last one being, because I said there was 3, is you've got to have a vision, right? There's a vision that must be present before you'll move to this state of power. So there's 6 factors altogether: self-purpose, team purpose, vision. Now I'll go back to vision, but then if you put those ones aside, because they're kind of like tick boxes, have you got a self-purpose? Have you got a team purpose? And have you got a vision? Right. When you've got those 3 factors, I find 3 other factors must be present for you to step and claim your power to cross the threshold. And that is certainty, trust, and belief. Now it starts with self, but it also must be present in the team or tribe that you are choosing to be with. Otherwise, there's doubt. Otherwise, there's fear. Otherwise, stuff gets in the way, right? Now, you might not know all the answers or have the next step, but those 6 things are present. That's when you're prepared to cross the threshold and claim your power. Then you start creating your own system for living. You sometimes borrow someone else's system for living first. You try it on, and then away you go. You innovate upon it and it becomes yours. If you think about the hero, they cross the threshold. They probably try 3 or 4 different things, right, to conquer whatever it is, to go through the ordeal and to come out the other side with the rebirth. They usually try 3 or 4 different things. So they go, well, I saw this in a book once, I'll try that. Oh, okay, yep, that worked, but it needs a bit of tweaking. And then they find their layer to it and they innovate upon it. And then they go, right, that was it. And they conquer themselves because they believe in themselves to give their thing a go. Right. So if I speak just a little bit about vision, the vision is relevant for how far you currently see into the future. So let me think about that for a minute. The way to frame it is, so if you're someone who is probably living life in a bit of a survival at the moment, you're probably only thinking in the next hour, I just want to have this occur. I see this happening, right? In the next hour, it just has to be something that you see yourself achieving in the future. So the timeline is irrelevant. It can be one week, 1 hour, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but it's that thing that your purpose can just go through, that it can channel itself through. that you are undeniably going to achieve, with or without, with or there's nothing going to stop you. That's what the hero doesn't stop. The hero keeps conquering until they achieve, and then they get the reward and the elixir and they bring that baby home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they start again, something new eventually. That's why there's sequels. Sequels
Right.
to all these great movies.
I love it. Yeah, Michelle, the one thing I wanted to add, because I think it's so true what you said, certainty, trust, and what was the other one?
Belief.
Belief. So if you have certainty, trust, and belief, it's more than likely that you're going to be inspired to take action. And from the action, you're going to create the results. So that is the, honestly, you guys, the key to intuition to income. Because once you are connected and you take that action, you put it into the physical, and then you can get the result.
Yep.
And like you said, it's the intention, right? Like, where's my vision? Like when I was 19, I had somebody come over the other day. She's like, how did you start? Like, what was the confidence early on? I'm like, because I loved people and I decided I wanted a wellness center. I decided I wanted practice, right? So decide, that's your power. Then your intuition comes in and it's like, all right, we got this. Like we're in harmony, got intellect and intuition. So I just
Yes.
wanted to add that because it's not, to me, intuition is not woo, it's the most practical thing you could do. Like it's like
100%.
your inner guidance, like hello, and it's beyond intellectual understanding, right? So you might find out why later, but if you trust your gut, I'm telling you, there's like 500 million cells in your gut alone. I mean, it just, the intelligence of our intuition, it surpasses the intellect, but it actually can be worked in complement with it, right? So that's why you have the intention with the intuition. So
It's so true. And I love that you say that, because when we start talking about intuition, some people disconnect because they think it is, oh, they're going to talk about and bang on about the woo.
yeah.
It's literally not, because it follows the path of universal law. Now, all you have to do is literally observe the universe and its system. It's a system. The sun comes up. It's the most reliable, unselfish thing I've ever seen. It rises every day, whether it feels like it's had a bad sleep, a good sleep. It's like, I'm going to show up every single day at the same time. Yes, we have little shifts, obviously, with the time that occurs, but every single day we know the sun will rise in the morning and it will set at night. It's a system for living. That's what fuels the photosynthesis, brings, life force into all the living beings in the planet. It allows growth. It allows for evolution. There's that time for stillness, for rest, where the dark comes in, and it's a dance. It's a dance of the universe. So these are universal laws. Like we're tapping into that. So if we think about the ultimate part of the universe is a system. It's a system. So that people tend to just jump straight into a system without actually going, well, what would be my purpose or my intent to do that? What would be the outcome I'm seeking for the team or tribe, or the contribution and growth that I'm going to offer to this team or tribe that I'm choosing to have my purpose with? And they don't get clear on the vision. So then they end up just being in this constant loop of trying on lots and lots of different systems. But they haven't actually got clear on the connection to power piece, are those 6 elements. Because once you get into power, let's be honest, you're willing to do absolutely anything. You'll be like, just bring that system to me and I'll take action. I don't care. I'll figure out a way. I'm going to get there no matter what. So the system is absolutely so essential. Part of my strategies for reclaiming my own life through coming out of $329,000 worth of debt was literally accepting that there was life force within me to still be expressed, that surviving my 8-year journey with cancer was so worth it, that I was gifted life. So I just went, the universe obviously agrees that I've got something more important to achieve here. And the universe loves order. I just know this. Once we get clear, once we get intentional, once we make those decisions, we've got to take action, as you say, Abby. We have to. Because when we just follow other people's systems without those other elements, we're just collecting knowledge. And I don't care. There's a saying that says knowledge is power, and I so disagree. I disagree with that statement. Knowledge has no power. I mean, hello, has anyone been to a course got away with all the manuals, come home and they've just sat on their bookcase?
I didn't. I'm the
Probably.
opposite of that. I took massive action, but I'm not normal.
No, that's right. Because from a young age, this was something that you were totally connected with and allowed it to guide your life. But a lot of people will just continue to be on a cycle loop of education. Go and do something with that knowledge that you've acquired. And I remember doing that myself. And that's where it shifted. I remember paying $13,000 one year to go to a course that I sat in the room in my head going, oh yeah, this makes sense. Oh, this is amazing. I'm so glad I'm doing this course. It's incredible. By the end of the year, I looked around me and there was people graduating with all these incredible results. And I wasn't. And I was going, wow, this course mustn't be as good as I thought it was. Or hang on, but they did okay. And then I went inside again. I looked for the evidence and sought out the evidence because it leaves clues. Success leaves clues. But what I kept coming back to at all times is that success is an inside job. Success is an inside job. Keep going inward. So take a U-turn, Y-O-U, U-turn to you. And what I learned, and I committed, I repaid the fees another year. And I went back and I applied myself differently. I promised that I would take action from every single lesson. Wow. So I would book a session with a client, or I'd book a workshop that the night of the day that I'd done the learning. And that's where everything changed. Because through the application of the knowledge, I could see the results. I could see the little nuances that I needed to integrate or change, or the context that I received back through the action then enabled me to be able to take other people's systems and add all these other layers that had not been taught to me. And it's only through, say, 39,000 hours of coaching now that I can go, yes, I do credit people like my mentors, like the Sharon Pearsons of the world, like the Taki Moores of the world, that actually taught me so much. But through implementing their stuff, I was able to say, okay, that part worked, that part's worked, but this part didn't work for me. Check in. Why is that? Okay, values are a little different, beliefs are a little different, something about my imprint is a little different, and I'm just going to add my layer. And through that, I see the change in the clients that transform, and I go, right, that's obviously my way of doing that thing, and I'm going to add that into my offerings.
Right. I love that. Wow. Wow. So light. By the way, if you want to give me a time check, I know we can keep going, so just let me know.
We can talk for yeah, let's go for another like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. What else is on our hearts to talk about? What is the absolute golden nugget you think for intuition to income, knowing that it is literally inspired by love? We know the duality of that is fear. What is the biggest message here?
Yeah, I think it's purpose, what you said. It's when you're connected to your soul purpose, it's an infinite expression of love, right? So when you tap into it, you'll feel it. And, when I kind of rewind back to when I was 19, it was like I was a force of love to be reckoned with. Like I couldn't stop myself hardly. I had so much energy to take action because I love people so much. I was like, let's go. Like it was just such a momentum. So when you tap that and you feel it, and maybe we can guide people through an exercise, Michele, of connecting with that purpose, because when you feel it, it will move you. And that's what we talk about even in the second chakra of the club is it literally is a life force that moves through you, and it's about allowing it. So what's coming through you right now, Michele? I know you've
the thing that dropped in for me was the moment where this became something I recognized and noticed that had to change, because a lot of the time I don't think everyone has clarity on what their purpose is. Right? People go, I don't know what my purpose is. You're so clear on your purpose, Michele. And I'm like, yeah, my purpose dropped in loud and clear at the age of 15. I had whispers of it from the age of 7. From the age of 7, I felt intuitively guided, didn't know those words at the time, but there was a life force guiding me. There was this universal life force guiding me. And sharing that with others at the time gave me labels, like projections of other people's labels of that. Like, well, that's a bit weird, or you're a little bit strange, or don't be so silly. that's not true, because the reality for the people guiding me as my giants, that wasn't their reality. Or perhaps they've just simply forgotten it, is what I've learned now, is that they needed those little sprinkles and seeds to remember and to awaken to that truth, because we're all born with that beautiful sense of innate wisdom. You only have to look at the beauty of a baby to understand that it knows its way. It knows its way. And yes, they go through the same process of evolution, from needing to rely on others, like they're survivalistic in a sense, like they must be fed, they must be looked after and nurtured to a point where they think about evolution. It's survival to connection, to empowerment, through a system, to reach this sense of themselves, which I call like entrepreneurship in business, but I probably would call it I amness in life, where we reach our state of I amness, where we just know that it's steeped with all those principles of courage and compassion and joy and love and creativity and resilience and all of those beautiful things that become our core once we start to excavate things all the way. So I remember at the age of 15, I already knew that I wanted to be in the space of service. But I saw a vision of a wellness center. I saw a vision of all the people there. And at the time, it was just when I had admitted to my sister and my family that I had been sexually abused for 12 years by my stepfather. And so I must say, I was probably, and I'm going to say I was a bit of a shithead. Like I started to be like a bit unresourceful, like the unresourceful, rebellious teenager, seeking attention, literally like seeking attention, because I just felt like I hadn't been seen throughout that time for people to help me to be safe. And my dad, who I'd only met, my real dad, who I'd only met at the age of 9, I'd built a very fantastic relationship with him. It was almost like when I met him, I was like, now I know where I come from. Yeah, like that was my team, that was my tribe. Not to dismiss, my mom or anyone else in my tribe at that time, because they were going through their own things with this matter, right? So I needed someone who that was like the mainstay. And my dad said, I'm going to send you off to this personal development program. And it was 5 days. I was 15. 5 days on the Gold Coast here in Australia. And I walked in and I had to take off my watch and hand it over. I was shown to my room, and then I was taken to like the conference room, when the conference room was like all blacked out, no sense of night or day, so that all of the timeline construct that we're used to being in as a human was taken away. So there was no sense of time. There was no sense of understanding any of that. And it was called the Greatness in You seminar. And it was put on by this incredible couple, Gail and Lyle Gillette. And they still do this work to this day. And it was the first time I experienced any form of transformational coaching, whereby the whole program was about connecting you back to that fountain of love, and that understanding that all these things that have happened was simply there for you to connect deeply to yourself and to remember and to awaken all of those seeds of potential that you were born with. And so that I left that personal development workshop with my purpose strong, understanding who I was, being able to forgive, being able to clear away negative emotions and diffuse them to a point where I could actually function and realize that I was okay. Like literally I was okay. And that the thing that had caused me the biggest heartache in my life up until this point, because I had realized through understanding that that wasn't the norm as to how a father expressed love. Up until that point of getting to a little bit older in my teenage years, I thought that was normal because it still felt loving, right? So it was about rewiring all this kind of weird patterning of resourceful relationships and what resourceful love looks like, and understanding that from that point in time, it was going to be okay. I remember standing on a seat in the middle of the room at the graduation, and I was standing there with a circle of people who I walked in as a room of strangers, but we walked out so universally connected, to the point where, it's just one of those moments in time where they were there to serve the purpose for that transformation, to witness one another, to claim what was rightfully ours. And the song that they played as I stood on that chair, and now they pick the song that they think is most relevant. And my song was The Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston. So I had that anchored in me from that time moving forward. And when you think about the lyrics to that song, it's like so much around that inner journey towards remembering that we are loved. And then when we choose to operate from that frequency of love, that the intention of everything that we do generally tends to operate from that frequency. So we create things around us that then go out, they transmute out of us and come back in the same resonance. And that is where I realized it was all about self. It was all about self, it's everything is. And I think that from my lens of the world, the biggest mountain that we ever have to conquer is ourselves. But we spend so much time looking outside of ourselves and blaming, denying, and justifying everything going on around us, that we forget how brilliant we really are, that wisdom that we are steeped with at birth is always there.
I love that.
It comes wrapped up with the gift of our purpose, and our ultimate mission is to really understand what that is and to then bring it to life. And that's why when you think about all the bodies of work that I have, like bringing life to leadership, because I operate in that leadership space, I find that's the missing link. It's the missing link. People focus so much on the system, on the tools, the strategies, the resources, the things. Just tell me the thing to do to be an awesome leader. And it's not about the things, it's about you and your being, the essence of who you are. So that's why we say bringing life to leadership, because to me, that's around the heartbeat. When we put our heart into leadership and we serve from the frequency of love, it changes everything, to the point where the leader who becomes like the leader of those tribes and those teams must be the heartbeat, because it's the heartbeat that pulses the blood through the veins. And so the leader, if they operate from a place of love, brings life force through the veins of the team that they lead. Without that, the team is literally just following a system. So it becomes unsustainable, unfulfilling, usually gets general results. People can succeed that way, but it's when they actually reflect back and go, at what cost was it? You don't want to have anything at cost. You want it to be lighting you up. So when you bring your heart into that space of heart-centered leadership, so many other things arrive: compassion, empathy, and you value your people beyond measure.
Yeah. It's
And
funny.
it doesn't have to be in business, but it's like, put humanity before profit, you'll always succeed.
It's funny. I actually have another client. Her company is called Heart Centered Leadership. No joke. No joke. And I want to just wrap it and bring it back to everybody listening. The leading question is, what do you love? To find your purpose, when you connect with what you love and you decide to follow that above society, what somebody else says. Like, I genuinely loved people. I left a scholarship. Society would be like, literally, the dean was like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Maybe, but I'm leaving." And I was so glad I did, right? Started the company at 19. My point is, when you feel what you love, that vibration of love, like Michele shared, is going to guide you, right? And as you learn to develop your intuition, which if you want to learn more, you can go to the intuitivesuccessclub.com to learn more. You can actually become in tune with it, which is that highest path in every moment. And
Yes.
one thing I love about Michele is she's been doing so much of this work for so long. And she has, to me, the intellectual complement to the intuitive work, where I've actually listened to her course and it literally clicks in a deeper level of intuition. It's like those aha moments, right? Like, oh, she just said that one thing that my mind needed to open to, so I can now experience the depth of my intuition. Like I get chills as I'm talking. So, Michelle, if you want to share, a way where they can start, I know you did the manifesting challenge. You might even want to share a little bit more about your site if you want to give a couple of different options.
Mm,
The team is amazing, but I just feel like, sometimes it's just a crack in the door, like the light coming in and being the transformer, right? Love being the
yes.
transformer, right? And just that little crack is enough that if you walk through that doorway and you take action just for a minute, you see that really positive result, you're like, oh, I can trust my intuition, right? Like I used to do like psychic journals. I mean, like, oh, I followed my intuition, this happened, right? Start to notice all the ways you're starting to follow your intuition, or maybe you have for a while, and how when
Mm.
you follow it, the amazing things happen. So,
Absolutely. Because I just had a visual then when you were talking that when we're in the dark, it literally only takes this little pinhole of light to
right.
actually see the light and it can permeate. It's just a
Mhm.
little pinhole. So it
Yeah.
just does. And it takes that one step, doesn't it? Just to say yes and to cross the threshold to start to figure out how you can trust. So whole sayings of leap and the net will appear and find your wings on the way down. It's actually so true because otherwise you're living life really safe and you're probably devolving, not evolving. So I say let life be your medicine because it will guide you. Yeah, so there's definitely ways to connect. I believe that intuition and income go hand in hand with nurture and self-love and self-care. We created a really simple yet steeped with lots of wisdom challenge for people. It's 21-day challenge. And I was like, well, we're going to give it away for free. And we went, no, because the journey to self-discovery starts with valuing yourself. And eventually you realize that money is just an exchange of energy. So when you back yourself, it's $21 this program, right? It's $1 a day. We had to put something on there just so there was a transaction of energy being exchanged to money so that the frequency could be aligned. And that's we call it the LYBL 21-day manifesting challenge. I believe that you just find it. I popped it into the chat earlier. It's
Oh,
at
here I can see.
pages.lybl.com.au/LYBL manifesting challenge. But I'm sure if you just Google LYBL manifesting challenge, it will come up. And the other program, if you're already attuned to your manifesting ability and you know that you are ready for more, is that if you haven't already jumped in and doing the Intuitive Success Club coaching with Abby, then the program that she's talking about that links the intuition to the logic, where we found there was a beautiful bridge of our bodies of work, is the Best Life Blueprint program. And you can find that on our website as well. It's your best life blueprint. So the whole idea is from the book that you see behind me, it's taking my #1 Amazon best-selling book and taking the 10 strategies that I teach for people to live their best life. And it takes you through this mission of this archaeological dig to excavate your blueprint that we believe wholeheartedly you were born with that innate wisdom to unearth the gift of your lucrative purpose. So we take you on the journey of being the designer and then the creator and then the liver of your own best life. And that is literally what we call to awaken, to take action, and then to arrive at a place of where you're being it each and every day. So we are lybl.com.au. And yeah, if you feel called, come and join us, accept your call to adventure and be your own hero and come and find out what your truth is. And then realize, like me and many others before me on this program or with this kind of work, is that all roads do eventually lead to love. So there you are, permeating your life in that way from that frequency.
I love it. Well, love, love, love you, Michelle. I know you got a jet. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for tuning in. We're so happy that you've been with us today. And feel free to spread the word. We just love doing this work, and it really is that ripple effect, right? So be
It is.
love.
Be love, baby. Thank
Bye.
you so much for inviting me to join you and to be able to, just have my own time with you to talk about these such important matters in my matters of the heart. People don't spend enough time here talking about these things. The systems and strategies are always there for you. When you are tapped in, you will find the right one. You will tapped in to your own self-purpose so you can claim that power. Get a vision for yourself and find the right people to do that with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
we are here for you. Thank you, Michele. I'll talk to you soon. Lots
See
of
ya.
love, everyone.
Lots and lots of love, everyone. See ya, Abby. Bye.